Hello, welcome to Relational Organizing 101. It's nice to have you. Class is in session here. Want to introduce the beautiful Adriana Sixto.
Everyone, thank you so much for having us here.
My name's Bowyer. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for Turning Point Action, which, as many of you have engaged with us, is the C4, or the political organization component to Turning Point USA. So for years, I was the Chief Operating Officer at Turning Point USA, turned to Chief Operating Officer of Turning Point Action, and essentially what we're doing is replicating everything that we're doing infrastructure-wise at the C3. And so one of the things that we're most focused on is building out the field and the field program. For years, I've worked together with Adriana, who has been one of our longest tenured staff. She's worked here for, in Turning Point USA years, about 90 years. So she looks pretty good for 90.
The best years of my life, my 20s, gave it to the org.
So kind of a cute story. Our very first event that Turning Point USA ever did that turned into America Fest. So the event that you see today, all of that, started as an event called Winter in West Palm Beach, where we bring all our activists together. And our very first event that we ever did had 250, 300 kids at it, mostly from Florida. And it was in the lobby. We did our entry. You saw last night's intro. Who was there last night? You saw it? It's pretty special, right? It's pretty cool. Have you ever been to an event that does that well? I don't know. It's crazy. What? Yeah, I mean, every year we do it, but no one else, right? So our very first opening night of our first event that ultimately became America Fest was held in the lobby of the Holiday Inn in West Palm Beach, Florida. And front row, sitting there, there's pictures of it still, at that event was Adriana Sixto, who ended up becoming a full-time staffer and then ultimately manager at Turning Point USA and now at Turning Point Action. So we're really excited.
That's the pipeline, guys, and there's so many more leaders that have been built out throughout the years with the organization like that too.
So I want to start off today talking a little about relational organizing with how we look at things at Turning Point Action. So we train all of our staff to grow. And what grow stands for is G is for groundwork, R is for recruit, O is for organizing or organize, and W is for winning. So this is every day when we wake up, we expect them to think about all of our full-time staff, building the groundwork, building the foundation, recruiting. Then how do we take those recruits and organize them, and then ultimately use those organizing skills to win? So we're focused today on the organizing aspect of that. So I want to talk a little bit about what is relational organizing. What does this mean? Relational organizing versus the OG, or as the kids say, the original gangster way that you may have been trained to talk to voters, right? How has the Republican Party historically told you to talk to voters? I'm asking you. Door to door, okay. Has anybody here ever been through a training on activism or door-to-door knocking or voter contact with the Republican Party? How do they train you? You just shout it out, just things. This is just straight from your brain. Issues, right at the door, okay. What else? Phone calls, making like 1 or 2 phone calls? Like 1 or 2,000 phone calls in a sitting? Yep, okay. Door hangers, okay. The very productive door hangering, yep. What else? Yeah, handing out like the door hangers, the palm cards, the mail. What else? Asking people on contact if they're going to vote. Yep. What else? Anyone else gone through I sit through this stuff at the RNC. I'm the National Committeeman for the state of Arizona. I represent Arizona to the RNC, not the other way around. Yeah. It's a scary place over there. But I've sat through many of these presentations, and it's like nails on a chalkboard because I hear everything you're telling me, and we'll get into why it's awful. Anything else? How do they train you to talk to voters? Questions, right?
A script, maybe?
Yep, scripting. Lots of open-ended questions, okay. What else? Face-to-face. We're digging deep here, guys. This is a work session together. You're not just listening. You're part of this. We need you to save America, so I need you to think about this. How else are you trained to talk to voters? Nothing controversial, okay. Does that always happen? I've been door knocking with a lot of people, and sometimes it gets pretty controversial at the door. What else? Yeah, so usually do you know these people that you're knocking on their doors? No. So let's think about this. What is transactional organizing? Have you ever heard of that frame? No, I don't mean transaction organizing. No.
There's a lot
Although
of
that does happen out there. Not transaction. Okay. Transactional organizing. What is transactional organizing? Yeah, not so much about the actual, but like think about more of the relationship at the door. What is transactional at the organizing at the door? What? One and done. Think, not a relationship. Think about what's a transactional type of a relationship that you have in your everyday life. When you buy something, so you go to what store? I'm trying to catch someone in a Target, situation. I fell for it
Call 'em
earlier.
out.
So. You go to. Oh no, Chick-fil-A's dead too. Those woke bastards. No, I'm just kidding. You go to Hobby Lobby. All right, we're safe. So you're at Hobby Lobby and you're at the register, right? And that's a transactional relationship, right? Are you ever going to talk to the person who's checking you out ever again? Maybe if you go back in there, but are you going to like invite them over for dinner? Hang out with them? No. Are you going to text them later and see how they're doing? No. The transactional relationship at the register is one and done, right? What else? What other transactional relationships exist?
Maybe a commitment.
What?
Maybe a commitment to try to get them, convince them to make.
Oh, I'm asking for examples of like in normal life. What's another example of a transactional relationship? And bank teller, same thing, very similar, right? You're at the bank teller. Now it's like even more automated. McDonald's, right? You no longer order your food from a human being. Why? Because it's transactional. They don't need a relationship. Does McDonald's care about a relationship for you? Does the bank care about a relationship for you? Have you called the bank lately? Like, did you know you can do this online?
Or on your app.
Yeah. Did you know? Did you know you can go on your phone and not talk to any of our people, bother any of our people? Thank you.
Maybe the first transaction, like door-to-door knocking, would be getting off of the front porch into the.
Well, whoa. I know we're going to get ahead here. We're still building up to it. What are other transactional relationships in America? A what? A taxi ride, Uber ride, right? I get pretty deep on my Uber rides, but, I always love, they're like, what do you do for work? I'm like, oh, this is going to either end in a 5-star or 1-star rating at the end of this here. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, like an Uber ride, a taxi ride, you're talking to them, I love by the stadiums, riding on the little carts, the bikes, right? But you're just going to talk to them for a little bit. It's like fluffy, whatever, da-da-da. You don't really get that deep with each other, and you move on, right? What else? We're trying to just like really get the juices flowing here because I want to make sure we understand the difference between relational and what we're talking about here with transactional. Yeah, I mean, some jobs are pretty transactional, right? Have you ever had a job that's more transactional where there's no relationship built in the job that you do?
Quotas.
I've had some jobs that way, for sure. Okay, are we getting it? Yeah, more examples. At the gym, what? Yeah, I mean, yeah, you may not even ever interact with a human being at a gym. You go in, you scan your thing, but yeah, it's very transactional, right? So what is the difference between transactional and relational relationships? Depth, personal, right? Investment, right? Yeah, for sure. No personal information is shared. Random, untargeted voter contact. So when we think about voter contact now, we're going to transition into more voter contact. No relationship to the activist. Drop in and dump. What does that mean? We talked a little bit about door hangers for a second, right? Is door hangering relational or transactional? Has any of you been like, has any of your local GOP committees been like, we've got to go out and put we have what in Arizona we call the golden tickets, right? Like, we got to go put these on people's doors. Great, but is that relational? You're telling people stuff, right? Just the same way that you're ordering something at McDonald's. It's so monotonous that they now have machines that do it, right? Spray and pray. Have you ever heard about that? Ever heard that term? It's like direct mail, right? It's like they get so down to the wire. You realize this in campaigns, that spraying and praying is how 90% of Republican campaigns are run. Where it's like, oh, I don't have time to actually convince a voter. I'm just going to do TV and mass mail. No encouraged follow-up, uncoordinated, and last minute. So these are all things that are in transactional relationships, right? Transactional voter contact. Oh, rushed. Is transactional sometimes rushed? Yeah. Have you ever been rushed through the line at Walmart? Do those people want to just like sit and chat with you all day long? Sometimes, but not often, right? So, Driana.
Yes. So
Let's talk about some transactional relationships in America we don't love.
yeah. So I'm gonna stand up because I'm Cuban and we got to move around a little bit. Go with
And again,
the flow.
guys, part of what we're doing here is we're all in a room together. The doors are locked. Actually, you can't get out.
You're stuck.
My
here with
goal
us.
is that out of the few hundred people that we have in this room, you leave here with a completely different thought pattern around how we conduct elections. And so you're the only people in here right now. We have this on video. We're gonna put this out everywhere, and we're gonna talk about this over and over and over again. But you have the responsibility to leave here today, and you got to talk about this nonstop, right? So I want you to get so invested into relational versus transactional. We're gonna think about this some more, okay? Driana, give us some transactional relationships we don't love in life.
So I'm going to go over a few that we for sure are very familiar with. And then we're going to go off on why exactly we just feel uncomfortable going into these relationships, or we just don't like these kinds of people because we know that their job and their mission is transactional with us. We feel like a number, right? Nowadays, especially, how many of you guys have just gone to a store, ordered anything, bought a little box of gum, and then they switch around that little tablet on you, and they're like, 25% tip, 22% tip,
There's another question right there.
Yeah. By the way, if you could just answer a few more questions. How was the service today? And you've just got to be there like, what do I do? It makes you feel uncomfortable, right? That's a transactional relationship. Another really good example. Oh, this is my favorite comedy movie. It's a little scene from White Chicks. Raise your hand if you've seen that movie. Okay. So in this scene, they went shopping, right? And we have the sales lady who's trying to make a sale no matter what. And let's be honest, who has not gone retail shopping back when that was more of a thing? And there's a lady in there telling us that we look great in absolutely everything that we try on, even though when we're looking in the mirror and we're like, I'm not sure about that. But, she's trying to make a little commission. So just highlights that. Let me see if this will play. Okay. Hopefully.
Come on out, honey. Let's see. Oh, it is absolutely fabulous. If you don't buy it, I'm buying it for myself. I don't know. Stand up straight. Straight. Turn around.
Turn around.
Fabulous.
Honey, just relax. Breathe. Yeah. Oops. You know what? Maybe a nice dress.
Yeah, maybe a nice dress will do. So we know those pushy salespeople, right? It's a transactional relationship. You know the person doesn't really care about you. You don't want to follow up, get lunch or coffee after. So another great example of a transactional relationship, car salespeople. I mean, we know when we are gonna go through the unfortunate process of having to update our car, get a new car, buy a used car, dealing with these people, they're just trying to get as big of a commission cut as possible. So you already go into the dealership apprehensive. If you're a female, you almost feel like you have to go in there with the dude so they can dude it out and you got a better deal. So again, we know that these aren't people we want to follow up with afterwards, right? Oh, transactional relationships. Look, we all have our own, belief systems, but we all have probably been approached by somebody with a different one that likes to come door knocking at a certain time in the morning. And how receptive are you to those kinds of people? We make memes all the time. In this case, we have Chuhulu. Excuse me, sir, do you have a moment to talk about our Lord and Savior, Chuhulu? It's this octopus thing that certain people believe in. But again, because it's pushy, right? You usually don't start a normal relational relationship by telling people, hey, do you believe in Jesus Christ? And if you don't, here's why. Boom. You got to ease into certain things. Okay. Telemarketing. Who loves unsolicited telemarketing calls? Raise your hand. Not a single one. Surprising, right? And even when it's about causes that we care about, right? They can call me, especially during election cycles, from my local RNC, from my local Republican Party, from local Republican candidates to, get me to talk on the phone, take surveys, and I very politely, tell them, love what you guys are doing, but, I'm a little bit busy. Even for people that we like, those kinds of techniques don't really work on us, right? And some people are not as nice and they'll just click on the phone, right? So then why would we use the same approach to get people in our party to get activated, to contact voters, to create these relationships, right? Door knocking, especially. I mean, they sell on Amazon, Jeffrey Bezos, no soliciting signs, specifically because people hate those kinds of things so much. No soliciting, no calling, nothing about religion, politics, anything. Same thing goes with, phone banking. What does it say there? No soliciting, religion, free charity work.
What do you think the percentage is of people who open the door today and just random door knocking to random people who knock on their door? What? It's max 10%, and it's in most cases less. So depending upon the community, it's less. So it's on phone calls. Who here has done phone banking? A lot of us have. What is the success ratio of you having a phone call longer than 2 minutes in those phone banking situations? You can probably count on one hand the conversations you had that were fortuitous, right? It actually turns out to be, just to get pickups is now what? Less than 10%. Conversations that are fortuitous are 2 to 3% of those conversations. So we're talking about fractions of percentages, and we're sending hundreds of people to go phone bank to get that result? Wild.
It's a waste of time and resources. So, hand it back to you.
I call this dork knocking. So this is what we train our staff to. This is dork knocking. What is dork knocking? Well, it's just not being a normal human being, right? So if I was to describe this activity, knocking on doors, making random phone calls to people is weird. okay? It just is weird, especially today. Once upon a time, back in the day when our communities were smaller and more spread apart and no one had a cell phone in their pocket, kind of made more sense, right? Would you agree? That was really the only way that we talked to each other. We just walked around places and ran into each other. Today, you don't do that, right? In fact, you look like a freaking social, ingrate if you are a person that just randomly is trying to call people you don't know. You look like a crazy person if you're trying to show up to, you get dropped into someone's neighborhood, you know nothing about that neighborhood, and you're knocking on doors. I'm going to tell you about an experience I had once. I was the chairman in Maricopa County in the Republican Party. I was in my mid-20s. And I spent a lot of time in Tempe, which is right here near Arizona State University. And the average age of our precinct committeemen there was about 80 years old. Let me ask you a question. How many people do you think were low propensity voters in Tempe that were under the age of 40? A lot, right? There's a lot, right? How comfortable do you think it is to have an 85-year-old man knock on the door of a 19-year-old female? How successful do we think that transaction is going to be? If you're transactionally operating, it needs to be successful. In today's world, transactional operations when it comes to voter contact are damn near impossible. They're just really difficult. That's why relationships have to be developed. And how you do that is just you start by being a normal person, right? Normal people don't do this. I want you to stop and ask yourself the next time that you're asked to do anything political, I want you to say, would a normal person do this? And if the answer is, I don't know or no, then do not do this thing. This is a good Teddy Roosevelt quote. The most important single ingredient to the formula of success is knowing how to get along with people. How can you expect to get along with somebody and have the success of that if you're starting the relationship off with like weird antisocial things that normal people in society don't do today? So what does relational organizing look like? What is it? What? Well, I would argue they do a lot of it, a lot more than we do.
Yeah.
Well, let's go through. I'm not really worried about Democrats today. I'm worried about us. And so I just want to focus on today what we need to do to make sure that we're getting better at these things. People don't know how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yeah.
Do you want to, Drina, do you want to think about
Yeah.
talk a little bit?
So think about, guys, the best relationships you have, right? Why are they so good? Why do you value somebody's opinion, right? You don't really care about what people have to say about you because we all have.
Stop and think just for a second.
Yeah.
I want everyone to stop. Close your eyes even. Think about your most valued relationship. Just think about it. Think about it. Your most valued relationship. Think about it for a second. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. And there's only a certain amount of people whose opinions you value, because we all have different opinions, right? But you respect certain people enough to hear them out. Why? Because you know that even if they give you some kind of advice that you might disagree with, you know that they care about you, right? They want what's best for you. So those are the people that you are willing to hear out. So what are some of those kinds of relationships, and who are those kinds of people? Well, immediately you think of your family, right? Your parents, your brothers, sisters, aunts. You know, sometimes we don't take our parents seriously. They're like, oh, they're from another generation. But I'm going to hear them out always. I'm going to answer their phone calls because I know they care and want what's best for me, right? So that's somebody that I'd be willing to take some advice from, or a neighbor that, you know, I've gotten to connect with over time, that we bond on a certain issue or something we care about. We're more willing to hear people out when we know that they care about us, and that's why that Teddy Roosevelt quote is so important. I'm sure with this next example, everyone's gonna have one idea pop up to their head. Who here remembers their favorite teacher, right? Everybody has a favorite teacher. And why are they our favorite teacher? Because they made us feel special, right? Because you could tell that they cared about your education or about your personal life. Maybe you were going through something. You know, you were young and there's instability in your personal life, at home, at work, whatever it is. And there's somebody that went above and beyond and showed you that they cared. And that teacher is never, ever, ever going to leave your mind. Raise your hand if you have a favorite teacher.
I've
Yes.
never. Have you guys ever been in a voter contact training and they told you to emulate people's favorite teachers?
No, exactly.
But
you-
everybody, she just said favorite teacher, and all of your faces went, ah.
Yeah.
I watched it. It was like harmonious. It was a beautiful thing. I've never
Yeah.
seen such harmony.
And so those are the kinds of relationships that we're trying to foster. When people think of us as their neighbors, they want to think of, oh, you know, Tyler, that's such a great dude. Or Adriana, she's such a nice person, you know.
Oh, that's my
Gets-
favorite neighbor.
Exactly. We want to elicit those emotions from people. So pass it on back to Tyler. Thanks.
So this is part of the voice, and we want to think about these things. Is being neighborly. What does being neighborly mean? Being more of this guy and probably less of this guy, right?
We all know
Anybody?
Nick.
I don't know if you watch. Works with our guys. What's a neighborly voice? What do you think a neighborly voice is like?
Shout it out. Put your hands up.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
who has a neighborly voice? Well, Drina just gave some examples of it, right? Of family, especially what family member do you think you use the most neighborly voice with? Someone in your family, extended family. Maybe grandparents that you don't see as often, right? Who else? Step parents, I heard. Yeah, step family. In-laws. Brother and sister, maybe, especially as you get older. You don't see them as frequently. Who else? Friends, best friends, closer friends. But let's think about family. Let's say family. Aunts, uncles, cousins, typically, right? Are you going to get in super deep with those people the same way you would with a spouse or maybe your parents or your siblings? Maybe not, but are you going to treat them with excitement and like, hey, hi, it's good to see you again, right? That's the neighborly way, right? The neighborly way. Do most political conversations start with a political or with politics? Most relationships start with political content.
Only
Just
here
in
at
normal
America
life.
Fest.
And I know a lot of us are psychotic about politics, right? You're weird, right? You're a political person. But I'm saying pull yourself out for a second and you're in the greater context of every relationship you've ever had in your entire life. Do most relationships start with political convo? No. That's probably, again, it's always super awkward. I'm in an Uber, right? And this is a transactional relationship. Like, yeah, it's not, you're like, hey, I'm glad you picked me up. Who'd you vote for? Yeah. Pick you up. How you feeling about, trans stuff? Like, that's probably just not going to be your entry point, right? Right? Unless they have a bumper sticker, right? Make a connection. What does making a connection mean with people? Yeah, find something in common. Like, this is basic stuff. This is just basic human interaction 101, right? Think, what are great connection points with first communicating with people? So politics is probably not one, right? Sex is probably not one. Religion's probably not one, right? We talk about these things. What are you not supposed to talk around the dinner table? Maybe don't do those things in a normal conversation with people. But what are some things? Weather, family, yeah. Current events, things happening in the neighborhood. I think back to Matt Gates' house he grew up in. What movie was filmed in Matt Gates' house he grew up in? You don't know? You don't know this? You just learned something. The movie Truman Show, you know the house that Truman lives in? That was Matt Gates' house he grew up in. Yeah, it's Seaside, Florida. It's a beautiful place. If you get to go to the 30A in Florida, it's the best beach in America. It's incredible.
Yep.
Matt Gates lives there. It's crazy. Yeah. If you've ever seen Truman Show, what is he? Hi, if I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Like the whole neighborly thing with people. Be a civic king or queen. What does this mean? Being the civic person in the neighborhood that knows stuff about stuff, right? It's happening specifically in the community. This is becoming a connector, as it's stated. What is it? Oh, this is still in there. I'm a people
what would
person.
you say you do here?
Well, look, I already told you. I deal with the goddamn customers so the engineers don't have to. I have people skills. I am good.
All right, be better than that guy. But what are some civic elements that you can become more involved with, that you can become the go-to in your neighborhood? School district meetings, PTA has this become very popular in recent years, right? Parents are now like, what's going on in the school district? Well, I happen to know some stuff for the neighborhood. I'm involved with the PTA or the PTSA or the PTSO, right? Some of us that have kids, getting involved with that makes you someone that people are going to go to if they have questions about what's happening at the school, right? City council, meandering into a city council meeting and just knowing what's going on with the city council. Time to time, something will happen like what? This happened in my neighborhood. They're building an apartment complex right across the street from my house. Some of my neighbors are pissed. And so they think that I know something, so they all came to me, right? And they're like, do you know something? I'm like, yeah, but the entire city council hates me, so don't talk to me. Neighborhood events, right? So we talked about things happening in the neighborhood. Being involved with that. HOA members usually are hated, so I'm not suggesting you should be on that board, but knowing what's going on with the HOA, that makes you valuable as a civic entity within your neighborhood, within your community.
Block parties,
things going on, events, pool parties, barbecues. Like, stuff about that. You help with that. You become a person that people can go to. And it's an open vein. Popular businesses. If you know popular businesses, owners, who here's a woman? You're not sure? We might have to start from the beginning. Females on Instagram, you have a lot of opportunity to connect with small business owners in your community and know stuff about things that new members of your community are going to be interested in. Oh, I know that person that has that pop-up shop. Oh, I know that person that has that store. Oh, I know the Ace Hardware owner. Oh, I know this, I know that, right? Does that make you valuable in your neighborhood? Yeah.
We all follow local influencers, food influencers, right?
Follow-up opportunities. Why is following up so important? Keeping it going, right? This is really the most important part. So we talked about connections and being a connector just now, right? So making a connection with somebody, knowing about their family, their kids, what's going on in their lives, and then being a connector is really looking at it and going, oh, I can connect you with this person, or I can tell you about this, what's going on. Oh, I can do these things. Those are all relational building type elements, right? Again, are these things that we're talking about when we're talking about voter contact usually? No, never. I've never sat in a single Republican Party training ever that said, we need to be thinking about how to connect with people and less about how many door hangers you can hang, how many phone calls you can make.
You want to be the person that says, I know a guy, right?
And this is why the follow-up is so important, giving them the whole follow-up, right? Which is, once you identify whether or not you've made a connection or you can connect them to something, right? How many people can you legitimately, this is a good question for the entire crowd. How many people do you think that you can make a connection with or connect them to other people? Like just in your life, your normal life. How many people? Hundreds of thousands?
Connections.
You can connect hundreds of thousands of people to school district, businesses, all that. What? Probably, let's just, even if it's more than 3 to 5, let's just start with 3 to 5. How many people on your street have you made a connection with in the last 6 months? You don't have to answer. You don't have to answer. Don't expose yourself. It's fine. How many people in your neighborhood Have you connected to one of those civic elements that I just presented? Some people are better at it than others, right? Some people are natural connectors. Some people are natural connection makers, right? These things are not easy things to do, but becoming very good at them, you're probably going to have a few dozen people, maximum probably within an election cycle, that the average person will make those connections. Becoming better at that means you're going to have more than that. But let's be real with ourselves. If we can build relationships with people, right, they're going to be more likely to influence others to build relationships from there. Does that make sense? Right now, the average Republican activist makes less than 20 voter contacts every election cycle. Did you know that? The average across and you guys are psycho. You're here at America Fest, right? So you guys are hardcore. So some of you, but again, they're making less than 20 contacts. And I would argue those numbers are inflated because of what we just talked about, right? Because a lot of people in this room have made hundreds, if not thousands, of phone calls that are ineffective. The average is making 20 ineffective voter contacts an election cycle. Is that mind-blowing to everybody? No wonder why we're losing elections. Now, if you could take the average activist and say, I need you to make 20 impactful relational organizing, method-driven voter contacts, what do you think that would do for our elections? Well, that person would for sure drive 20 votes. In Arizona, did you know it was 8 votes per precinct that would have made Kari Lake governor? Oh. Given the numbers that we have, 8 votes per precinct that makes Kari Lake governor. 8 votes on average per precinct. Let's focus, guys. Let's focus on relational organizing. We'll talk about election integrity in another episode here.
Even with,
That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
This is the thing. In Arizona, do you guys realize they had to go to the wall with all their cheating? They had to go to the wall with all the amount of votes that they took out. And all it would have taken for us is to do more voter contact. And even if you believe that the entire system is rigged and screwed up, and I'm going to say this, right? Even if you believe, I could tell you, having been the Maricopa County chair, it's not the case. It's not unwinnable because we took out Rusty Bowers here, and we have 4 congresspeople, and we have 4 congresspeople in Iowa, and if that was all the case, then we would have none of that, right? But let's say you believe that. You have to believe that having more bodies relationally influencing elections is going to bring more people to the truth and to be able to manage nefarious activity. And then 2, what's most important to me is it's going to screw up the Democrats' moneyball equations that they're doing to try to screw with our elections, right? And that's a great starting point. So the follow-up. Let's go follow-up do's and don'ts because I want to get into some technology real quick, and then we'll do some questions. Don't wait too long to talk to people. Talk politics too soon. Over-message people. Invade personal space or social media space. What does this mean? Can you harass people on social media? Some of us really need to internalize that here, okay? You can, okay? Social media is not a free-for-all. Talk to someone else in the household. Why do you think that's important? Why should you not talk to just random people in a household? You need the technology to support this. We'll get into that in just a second. I'm going to skip through it real quickly. But do you think it's helpful? So I'll tell you in Arizona what happened here. Do you think it's helpful to go to a door where you're targeting a voter and just talk to any random person in that household in a key target area? Why? What can be at that household? What? What? Speak up. A Democrat. If you start just like going into your script and talking about all sorts of random stuff transactionally with someone that's a Democrat, what's going to happen more than likely? You just reminded that Democrat to vote. You just helped turn out the vote for the other side because you transactionally just targeted any random schmuck that opened the door. The Democrats don't do this, right? They do not do this. So you want to ask the question, Democrats are transactional. Some cases they are, but they have data that's in front of them, and they target specific voters and only talk to those voters. So what are the do's? Send a nice to meet you text when you meet somebody. Is that what normal people do? Yeah. Add on social media when it's not awkward, right? When is it not awkward to add someone on social media? Yeah, right after you meet them, right? Is it awkward to add someone on social media before you meet them sometimes? Yeah, sometimes, yeah. There's a space, there's a window there. Offer to help with something. Plan to meet at a normal place. Meet up for coffee or other neighborly events. These are all helpful with relational organizing. Now, we don't have much time. I want to leave you with this, and then I want to talk a little bit about technology. One of the things that we've been focused on, and I have a whole other slide, and we've run out of time here, and we're going to put it out so you can see it. At Turning Point Action, we've actually developed some very critical tools that help with relational organizing. So what I want you to take away from this are really two things. One, the entire way that we've been transactionally operating within the political space is wrong. Okay? It's wrong. And we have some party leaders in here, actually. The wonderful chairwoman from North Dakota is here. She's tremendous. It's not a lot of our activists' faults, but I do blame the RNC. Because the RNC has essentially taught us all the wrong ways of how to operate and organize with people. Second thing is owning your own street. So I asked the question to everybody here. When was the last time you built a relationship, a connection relationship, or a connector relationship on your street? When have you done it, right? Have you done it enough? Do you know enough about your street, right? And, you don't have to, I feel like oftentimes I don't, but this is where we have to start. Because you're going to be much better off being able to identify the people who we're supposed to target, specifically low propensity. If you just came from Arabella Advisors and we talked about it, the left is only targeting low propensity votes. Our job is we have to identify low propensity votes, the best person to go to that door, build a relationship, and get them out to vote. So with that, what we'll do is Drian and I will take some questions and start some conversation. We have a few minutes left here for some Q&A. So yeah, we'll start right here in the blue. And guys, we're going to keep this concise because we only have about 5 minutes, so we're going to do it real quick, and then we're going to go.
My question is, why are we trying to save the Republican Party? Like, I obviously identify myself as a Republican, but if our party's being ran by Ronna McDaniel and...
It's a great question, and I'll get right to it. So, anybody here familiar with the Electoral College? Yeah. There's your answer. So, whether you like it or not, I think that the Electoral College is inspired. Because if it wasn't for the Electoral College, we would have had a long time ago a tyranny by majority country. And a lot of people get really focused in. And again, I just want to expand your mind on this topic because I think about this a lot. The Republican Party really isn't just one party, right? Has anybody been to a Republican meeting? There's really like 4 or 5 parties within the Republican Party, right? You have rhino establishment hacks, you have libertarians, you have constitutionalists, you have like pseudo, trans Republicans. You have all sorts of crazy things, right? Rhinos, trans Republicans. You have all sorts of things. We have a system, though, because of the Electoral College, the national parties figured out a long time ago, it's impossible to win the presidency if you split your base, right? And so things have been consolidated into 2 parties, which, because the national party has the impact, it works its way all the way down. At the lower levels of elections, local races, school board, things like that, nonpartisan races, but legislature even, you'll oftentimes see other people from other parties get in. That just doesn't happen at the presidential level because of that reason. So because of that reason, that kind of answers your question. You either save the Republican Party or you replace it. It's way harder to replace it than I think it is just to save it. So,
Yeah.
so that's just my opinion, but I'll just take that. But look, I mean, there could come a day where you have to burn it all down, like the Whigs, right? And you start over. That you just probably aren't going to win for a little bit if you do that. And I don't know if we have that much time left against the communists that are in our country. Question?
Any tips on using technology in developing relationships?
Yeah, so
Got a whole presentation on it.
So the back half of this presentation after this slide actually goes through and this is probably the most important part here for you guys.
Download the app first. Just
Download the Turning
done-
Point Action
yeah.
application.
Right now.
Okay?
Go on your phone.
If you haven't done it, download it. Get everybody to download it that you can.
Nope.
Just go straight to the App Store or the Google Play Store. Download. Look up Turning Point Action, not USA, Action.
Yeah. Turning
And
point.
the way
action.
that we look at these things is there's a couple of different things that we actually have to do to build relational organizing. One, build tools that allow you to look at contacts and follow up with contacts that you've initiated through the proper ways that we're talking about here today, through door knocking, phone calls, and text messages, and then even postcard writing. We've built in our application this specific approach, which is if you go in, you can actually go to the door knocking application on it, click go, it'll pull up the 15 closest houses right now that are for Republicans to wherever you stand today, so you can go start building a relationship with those people. So if you're at home, you click go, it'll bring up the 50. You're probably going to know some of those people, right? Go talk to them. Go start talking to those people. Where this matters within, if you guys can close the door real quick right there. Where this matters in ballot chasing and when it comes down to winning elections, being able to identify the homes that have a ballot sitting on their counter closest to you is what's critical to building that relationship. It's just on the application, within the App Store, on the Google Play Store, whether you have an iPhone or Google, look for Turning Point Action. You'll download it. It should be a blue icon, Turning Point Action. Yep.
Yep.
TP Action.
TP action.
Yep. So getting more deeply into this, one of the things, so it's a great question. How do we identify which, and I'll change your question a little bit. How do we identify independents we should be talking to, right? So this is the biggest problem that exists right now with the RNC. The Republican National Party has data that's old, right? So the question that we all have to ask ourselves, how do we know which independents, which there's a lot of conservative independents that are just like sick of the party and they want to be done, whatever, right? How do we identify who are the right people to make sure we get them to vote, especially if they're low propensity, meaning they're less likely to vote? Well, you got to do like up to the day of election voter contact to know, well, what's the best way to do that? Relationally. So what do you have to have? Tools that tell us that that person is a relationship. So one of the things that we're building, that we've built into this application is, once you've identified someone in your neighborhood that is that person, that's an independent, because it allows you to access that, or even better than this, our application, if you go up to contact upload, allows you to upload all of your contacts from your phone. What that will do is match it against the voter file, and then it'll spit out, closer to the elections, it'll spit out lists that say, here's all your Republican friends in your phone book. Here's all your Democrat friends in your phone book.
I think
Here are all
that's
the
craziest
independents,
feature.
right?
That's
And then here are all the independents you should contact. Here are all the independents you shouldn't contact, right?
imagine
So
that, like,
this
your
is,
phone right
guys,
now.
you realize Democrats
Yeah.
have had these tools for like 3 election cycles, right?
Yeah, we don't.
And no one on our side has built this. So we've gone to the nose to the grindstone to build these things. So download the application. Every single person that's here that's like a 404 voter, anyone that's super involved, if they download that application, we're going to be walking people through, this is exactly what we need you to do. Upload your contacts, start talking to your friends because you know them better than a random Joe Schmo would know them, right? Does that answer?
In your
So-
neighborhood,
so this is
you
the
have
ne-
to be standing in your neighborhood, and it'll show you the closest Republican voters, right? So you go back home, go back to your houses, apartments, whatever, and it'll show you the 15 closest Republican voters listed on there.
So
and
when you
can-
click on that button, voters near me, it'll pull up the 15 closest voters to your household.
yeah. That's why it's
During election time, it's going to show you exactly where those ballots are sitting on their counter. Voters near me. Go, 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 go. And deeper application training on this is that it's 15 at a time, right? So you do 15, and then you go to your next 15. It's going to actually pull up a contact history here where you can go through and then easily just pull those people out that you've knocked into, and then click follow up, and then it sets up a phone tree so you start calling them directly from your phone. So it's not a random phone number, it's your phone calling these people.
So you said during election season, it will show you the folks who haven't turned in their ballots.
That's
Correct.
right.
So you checked out with the Secretary of State match.
Yeah.
It's public data, yeah.
So
That's worth clapping for, right?
we could spend a whole another hour on this, and we got a break for the next thing. They're getting really angry with me, but download the application, build the tools. But what's critical and what we want to leave you with, and I'll leave you with this: your relational organizing. The relational organizing that you're doing is what's most critical. None of this matters. Nothing on the ballot chase front. Anything else? And yeah, Jenny Beth Martin, who is in here. Where's Jenny Beth? Is she still in here? She just stepped out. Jeff Davis is here from Tea Party Patriots Action. We love the Tea Party. We're obsessed with this, right? The Tea Party's in the middle of this, application-driven with us too. It's us, the Tea Party, and we're helping get as many organizations on this as possible so that we can do this. But your brain has to start thinking in the way of, how do I build a relationship to make this work? Not how many people can I contact that's not going to be effective.
Instead of having 10, people trying to make 10,000 voter contacts that are transactional, let's get 10,000 people to make 10 relational, good contacts with voters and neighbors that are in your area. And all of you guys here can do that. So, yeah.
So guys, I hope you, I wish we had more time together. God bless you. Thank you for joining. Please leave here. Go out and tell people. We got to start talking with people relationally. God bless. Enjoy the rest of your time at
Thank you
AmFest.
so much, guys.